Hello, everyone, and welcome to Who Needs a Film Critic. I'm your host, William Yelton, and today we will be talking about episode 9, the finale of Squid Game. All right, let's get right into the conversation about Squid Game episode 9, entitled One Lucky Day. The final round presents another cruel test, but this time how it ends depends on just one player. All while the game's creator steps out of the shadows and reveals themselves at last. All right, so I'm sure we all want to start at one clip in particular. It is the clip that has been the main conspiracy of all of these panels. So let's take a look at the clip, and then I'm sure there'll be a lively debate after.
당신은 그 안에 왜 들어온 거야?
어릴 땐 말이야, 친구들이랑 뭘 하고 놀아도 재밌어서 죽기 전에 꼭 한번 자네를 왜 살려줬냐고. 재밌었거든, 자네랑 노는 게.
Raise your hand if you liked this twist. 1, 2.
I loved it. Their number was 01 and 456. One was the beginning, one was the end. And it kind of ended this way a little bit to me as well. I love the twist, and I love the fact that, there was one last bet. We know he loves to take a bet, and he took the bet, with the guy on the street dying, and it was one that paid off for him.
The one thing I really liked about this is that it really wrapped up the entirety of the series. We've talked about the amount of time they've spent foreshadowing what's coming up.
But what we got was not actually a reveal. What we got was, okay, so I just wanted to play childhood games with my friends. Okay, but we knew that. What we should have gotten here was, I created the game. This is what I like. This is my role in the game. Like something more about like the mechanics of the game. Like this is why the games are the way they are. But all we got was like, yes, I like to play the games. I don't know. I didn't like this reveal at all. I really kind of saw it coming from a mile away, and I expected more.
I hated everything about this twist. Basically, the game was rigged for this player to win it. And why did the doctor have to be killed if he was also having insight to it? Everything about this twist made no sense. The old man knew what was going to happen from step A to step B. It came down to the episode 6, and it was clearly rigged for this guy to walk out. So it's just everything about this twist really pissed me off.
But he could have died. He could have died in the tug of war. It wasn't him that came up with the take 3 steps forward.
He could have died on by himself, but definitely Il Nam had a hand in helping him out, making sure he was his chosen one. He is his Kangbu.
I don't feel that he rigged them. We don't know that he knew what games were coming up. I feel he was left in the dark, just like everybody else. I don't think he gave our main character an edge per se, other than the marbles.
The scene purposely has this super inspirational music, the sad music that should make you feel for this character, Old Il Nam. So what is the show trying to leave us with? Is the fact that he is the quote unquote, main master of the game, does that negate all of the good scenes that we saw between him and other characters? Does that negate the character itself?
Of course, it negates a lot of it. Like I don't fall for that music, that sappy music. I think what this show does well, what it does brilliantly, is it gives us a taste of the character from their own point of view, and I do appreciate that. I think Il Nam does, in his mindset, view himself not like a bad person, and I think that it's important to remember that bad people probably do have ways that they justify their badness or whatever. So, I just thought in that moment that everything I felt for this guy, I'm done with that. I'm gonna exercise it from like my mental capacity to have any caring for this guy. Like, screw this guy.
I disagree completely with that. I think that he's showing an introspective of his life from and is emotional about it. The guy's dying. He's got a brain tumor. He said that's one of the few things that he said that was the truth. And so I think this was kind of his swan song. And he was showing to Gi-Hun how I think it was his best friend. He had a best friend as a child. He played these games until the sun went down. And I think Gi-Hun was his best friend now in his swan song. And so, yeah, you've got to have the music to go with that, to back that. You can't have like slasher music as he's reflecting on this life of his. And who knows, he may have lived an impeccable life. Everybody loved him until 2015. What year did he get his brain tumor? Go back and watch it. It was 2015.
But I think that Il-Nam, the old man, had been running this game for a very long time. I don't think this is like a recent event. Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't realize that.
Yeah,
but
I
I
don't
don't
think
think
they were
that's like,
going back way back. They weren't just from 2015. They were like, in the
Yeah.
80s and the 90s.
so it wasn't
Yeah,
like, oh, I
and-
just got this brain tumor. It was like, maybe I just got this brain tumor and now I want to play this game so the front man can be, I'm not sure.
We don't know that he was terrible the whole time.
It doesn't
Was he-
matter. The last couple of years, he came up with this idea.
Yeah.
But see, I agree with Set now.
But he wasn't
He was-
kicking puppies and stuff.
Well, no,
He was
killing
killing
people.
He was killing people.
But what I'm
He was
saying,
killing
I know what you
people.
mean, Kim. I know what you mean. But what I'm going to say is, though, is a lot like Sang-woo, it's almost like he was trying to justify what he was doing in his. I mean, he knew he was doing wrong. This guy's motives was basically, I'm just bored and got a lot of money and just want to see what people, what kind of lengths people will go to for that money. So
Like betting on
he is
horses.
pure evil, no matter what he did in a previous life. He is.
But that
pure
might have
evil.
been his
And I
brain
love it.
tumor.
But how many tens of thousands of people's deaths did Il-Nam cause?
I
I
totally
don't
agree
think
with you.
there's no way he's a good person. Like,
No.
I hope that that's not the debate we're having, because he's quite definitely a bad person.
Oh, so no, I completely agree with you. I think
Nam,
I
one
think he's
could
the villain
argue
here.
that this man has given a bunch of people who are in poverty a chance to become
No,
billionaires.
no. All right, listen. Like, all right. So, like, what
And
I
give
was
to
saying, and I
charity.
think Kim and I actually agree on a lot. We're just framing it differently, because honestly, obviously, he was giving his swan song, but it was like being told from his perspective. What I'm saying is fuck his perspective, because he's a fuckhead.
Ed, I want to go to our annual sitting on the couch with the wife update.
Oh dear. We're watching this man on his deathbed. And not that this is the time to make amends, but I guess I'm going to cut this guy some slack. I'm not that upset with his character, and I'm not sure if he was the big boss all the way through or only from 2015. It seems to me at some point he came from the same village as almost everyone that was playing in the game, so he's probably known Gi-Hun and Sang-woo all of their life, and maybe he's been watching them, and he gives Gi-Hun a last chance at making some good dough for himself.
I remember episode 1, how much he smiled during red light, green light, and then how dark he was in this scene. And it was like, am I watching the same actor? And it's like, yeah, obviously I am, but this guy, man, he conveyed so much. He fooled us.
His face did change, but he basically, you understand why, because he said when he played the games and in the beginning he was so happy to play. Think back to when he was playing red light, green light. He was like a little kid again. He wasn't thinking about his death or his dying, and we didn't know that back then. Some of us assumed, later on that, he was involved, but then there he was dying. So for him, just that darkness and that gloominess, he knew death was coming, and he knew, that he wasn't going to be able to play those games, and he wasn't going to, he wasn't that young boy anymore.
All right, we're gonna flash back a little bit, and we're gonna go to the very end of the Squid Game. So let's take a look.
안 해. 그만두겠어.
What is he doing?
What the hell is going on? 성우야, 어릴 때 형이랑 이러고 놀다 보면 가자. 미안해.
Thoughts on the final game, and did Sang-woo at the end redeem himself? Thoughts?
In this scene, to me, Sang-woo, I mean, he died in the best way possible. Japanese have seppuku, which is samurai. It's basically to die an honorable death, which kind of him taking his life, it allowed him to die honorably. It also allowed his friend to not have to kill him, but win the game and end it. In Korean, is there almost like a code like that? Is there another, like almost like religion or samurai that they were trying to purvey?
I'm not sure about the Koreans, but I definitely know the Japanese. That was kind of like the right of back in the samurai days, harakiri in World War II, and like the Japanese airplanes would just crash. They would rather, they'd rather die by their own mere or doing rather than someone else's. But what I do know is what I kind of mentioned in the previous episodes, that Sang-woo was the captain of his own ship. He tells us how he wants it to happen, and I think at that time when he doesn't have a life to go back to, I think, whereas Gi-Hun has. There was a scene where he was all in the bathtub drinking alcohol, like very miserable with his life, and he's a smart guy. I mean, I think in that time he wanted his friend to win, because he knew that his friend was a good person, number one. Number two, he's a childhood friend, and number three, he had something to be living for.
So who thinks that this scene redeemed Sang-woo? 1, 2, 3. All right, Ed, why?
After him being portrayed as, well, he did play the bad guy all the way through and to the very end. And I think he recognized that Gi-Hun had this terrible decision to make. Did he cross the line and that would have forced him to kill? And he realized, there's a way for us both to live and go back to that life. And he offers him that opportunity. And Sang-woo reaches up to his hand, but then he takes his own life, and then it frees Gi-Hun to have the money. But a whole year later, Gi-Won is still sitting at the subway station. Like, this guy's life is not better for a whole year until he buys these flowers, one rose, and the episode comes to a quick conclusion after that. But I don't see Sang-woo as a bad. I think he has redeemed himself, to answer the question.
Ed, that's so funny. You're totally right. He waited a whole fucking year to help this old lady mother out, to help Kang's little brother out. This guy waited an entire year to help all these loved ones out that he promised he was going to help out. I bet Sang-woo would have been pissed.
Just going off Vanessa, I think that's because he had survivor guilt. I think he kind of just tried to shut everything out and just kind of live day by day, not really think about the responsibility he now has because he lost his best friend, because he lost all these other people. And then getting back to why I think Sang-woo redeemed himself is kind of going what Ed said. Does the villain kill himself? Like, why? What's his motivation besides him trying to redeem himself? And I don't think he thought he was going to do that until he was reaching up to grab Gi-Hun's hand. I think in that moment he realized, if we both quit the game, what's going to happen? We're both severely injured. That's a hospital bill. My mom in her shop and her house is still going to get taken away. I'm probably going to get murdered by these people I owe money to. And now Gi-Hun is going to be suffering as well. And so I think he just kind of thought of all those things, really looked at his childhood friend and saying, how have I been going through this whole game and being so terrible to him? Like, I could have told him to take the triangle, not the umbrella. So I think he finally came full circle and realized, like, you know what, maybe friendship is more, and maybe I'll choose that instead.
And Kim, I find it interesting that you take the position that Olil Nam does have redeeming qualities, despite what some people on this panel might say is, genocide. But you do not seem to see the redemption in Sang-woo, who, maybe has been responsible for 2 or 3 deaths, but certainly not hundreds. So where is your perspective on Sang-woo?
I think that Sang-woo is a chicken shit and took the chicken shit way out of life. I think he lived a very privileged life as a young child, being so smart and going to this great university and getting this fantastic education, and then turning around and taking that education to take advantage of his clients. He was literally calculating every single move right up to his own death when it came down to the 2 of them. If he wasn't going to win, by God, he was going to go out under his own terms. And so
brilliant.
Did I think he ever redeemed himself? Hell no. I think he was evil from the start, and I think he died an evil man.
I mean, it's not evil. It's calculating. I mean, they're playing a game under the circumstances, and he's there for a mission. He never lost sight of the mission. I need my mom to be taken care of, and I need like this responsibility to go away. And when he realized that this guy, Gi-Hun, was about to throw all this money away, and then this guy's about to die anyway, and they're not going to get any money. He's like, oh my God, the only thing I can do is kill myself and then have this guy pay my debts and take care of my mother.
But why do you keep calling him a moron or an idiot if he's being empathetic and he may be more simplistic in his thoughts, but they have to show that contrast from the super brain as a kid who's evil to this person who looks at things maybe in a more simplistic way, but it does not make him an idiot. It makes him empathetic.
Sang-woo is an evil person, but I think he was evil because he had to play the game to survive. I think to Nessa's point, he was very calculated. He was an assassin. He knew exactly what needed to be done. He's a very smart person. And yeah, he wanted to win. On the contrary, I also do agree with Gi-Hun, his empathy, his character, the fact that he was a good person. He's not an idiot. He's not a moron. He might have gotten a stroke a lot like here and there, but like I think that has taken him very far in the game. People have trusted him throughout in the game, including 001. Il Nam, multiple people, the pickpocket, like they've invested their lives, their trust in Gi-Hun because of that empathy.
The reason I think he's an idiot and a moron is because at the end, he then decides to be all like high and mighty and go on this like righteous, like high moral ground of being like the Batman and trying to vindicate this whole thing. If you're going to be in the simple lane, then stay in the simple lane. Then like, why are you then like expanding to like, trying to like vindicate this whole like thing that's going on.
Thank you for bringing that up, Vanessa. That brings us right into our last scene of the season. Let's take a look and then discuss.
게임에 참가를 원하십니까?
잘 들어. 난 말이 아니야.
456번 그 비행기를 타.
That is how season 1 ends. Since episode 1, we've had lively debates about whether or not Gi-Hun is a good character, a flawed character, a bad character, anything in between. And I know that there will probably be a huge debate about whether or not we end on feeling good about this character or bad about this character. He does not get on the plane. He does not see his daughter. So where do you fall on this character?
I hate this guy so much. I hate him so much. He's the worst character in my opinion. He's just a selfish, ridiculous person. He's a father, and ever since the first episode, he's given up these opportunities to be with his daughter And like now he's yet again giving up an opportunity to be with his daughter for like the most selfish reason. Like, I want to go seek justice for myself. What does this guy think he's going to accomplish? He's going to get shot in the head. Like, this guy does not have the capabilities of going up against this organization that's been around since 1988 or whatever. Like, what does he think he's going to accomplish? Fine, you have PTSD. You might like not know what to do with your life. And now I'm going to come in here and break apart this organization all by myself. I got this.
I'm hopefully going to change in Nessa's mind. This couldn't have played out better with current events, in my opinion. Going to war, coming back. So you're leaving this place of horror and you come back to your friends and family, right? It can take years for some people to basically put that aside and get back with a life. So I really related to that. You know, he saw all this death and he's not a soldier. So it's got to affect him even more because he wasn't trained to even cope with any of that. So him taking a year just to kind of, you know, dwell on it. I mean, it had to be hard for him. The other part I liked is kind of when he started to accept it, you saw that he changed his appearance. Again, to me, that's another military, you know, almost reference because, you know, in the military, I was in for 20 years. You know, my hair had to be short. My face had to be shaved. I get out and I start growing this, my hair starts going long. So it allows you to kind of re-identify yourself. I'm no longer in, you know, the military. I'm no longer in the games. I want to re-identify myself. The other thing with him going on the plane, and I had a hard time with this, but then I watched another news article I kind of forgot about. I don't know if you're really familiar right now with the lieutenant colonel who has stood up against everybody in the Marine Corps. He has stood up against majors and joint chiefs of staff saying, you have botched Afghanistan. What have you done? Gi-Hun is like him. He's just like, you know what? I want answers. Why did you treat us like this way? Why did you throw us to the wolves? What is the reason? Not to give me, you know, 44 billion won. You could have just handed it to me if you thought I, you know, needed it, or everybody. Why are you doing this to me? Because old man or Ilnan did not answer that question for him. He just told him why he wanted to play the game. He did not answer the question. And that's why he wants answers for the deaths of his friend, for the deaths of the girl. Why did this happen? And I commend him for taking it on. I mean, you're right. Does he have a chance? Maybe not, maybe so. You know, will the cop come back and help him? Again, I love this part of this movie.
I understand what you're talking about, like coming back, changing your appearance, dealing with PTSD. I totally get that. I just don't like he did it to himself in a way. Like this game was voluntary. So like,
well,
why
so
is
the
he
military?
blaming... Right. But you're not mad at, like, I don't know your experience,
Right.
but like you're not gonna like, you don't think the military like did something immoral, or you're not like going against the military to say like, why did you do this to me? I don't know, maybe you are, but like
I haven't,
like, yeah.
But I know, I mean, like I said, this guy that has, it really kind of made me relate Gi-Hun to him per se, you know what I mean? It's like he has everything. I mean, he's got all this millions of dollars, you know, 36 American, $1 million.
He doesn't have his daughter.
Yeah. Well, and again, I mean, PTSD, it's, you know, and guilt and all these unanswered questions. I mean, I have seen it, you know, where guys, you know, have, and ladies, you know, have just like, they don't go back to their families, you know, because looking at his daughter might cause him to be like, you know, what did I do for, you know what I mean? Might almost resent his daughter because of the guilt and everything, even though he doesn't really have blood on his hands. I mean, he never killed anybody in the game. Nobody ever really died.
Ending. This was just such a frustrating ending.
I could see it, but
I wanted to just like bang my head against the wall. I was so annoyed.
Kim, you were also in the military. Do you understand Josh's perspective?
Absolutely. I was ready for recall for Desert Storm in 1990, knowing that I could go over there. I didn't have to, but my uncle was paratrooper in Vietnam, and to this day is still fucked up. And he came back from Vietnam in 1968. His uniform and everything we have in a trunk. In fact, we've got it here in Arizona. He's still up in Montana. He cannot see articles. He can't see his buddies. because they went in on a buddy system. He lost so many people over there that he did not feel he was good enough. Instead, now he has 3 doctorates. He has, I don't even know how many master's degrees that led up to that. And I look at it going, this is all an effort to be good enough. And I think that's the same thing we saw in this character. I don't think he's going back in to seek revenge or for justice. I think that he wants to go back in to right the wrongs that have happened so that he can go to his daughter and say, I did something positive out of this horrible, horrible experience.
To satisfy all parties on this call is have one scene where he puts the money in the envelope and we see the envelope get to America, where we know his daughter's okay. And then deal with the PTSD.
We already know his daughter is taken care of because the stepfather and her mother have made it very clear that monetarily they can do that.
But $38 million, she's not taken care of with that kind of money. That's money.
He's going to lose all that money, and this is going to be all for naught. It's just going to be like.
All right. Well,
are we sure that he didn't give all the money to San Wu's mom?
I don't think that. I don't think all that money. I don't think all that money that fit in the thingy would fit that suitcase.
Makes sense. All right.
She was like running down the street looking for him, and she left that suitcase on the side. I'm like,
No,
oh my god, someone's gonna take the money.
I thought the same thing. It's like you left. Not only did she just leave it there, she left it with it open. She was exposing it for these people in the market.
With the little boy.
Like, oh my God, woman.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there's one last question I have before we get to the review, and that is zooming out. This show has become the #1 show of all times on Netflix. It is the #1 show in 92 countries. Regardless if we loved the way it ended, if we hated the way it ended, if we loved it all the way through, or if we despised every episode we watched, this show is definitely a show that has made a mark on television history. So I just want to give a few perspectives as to why we think this show at this time hit the zeitgeist the way it did.
I think it's really reflective maybe of our society, and it's totally different than anything we've seen on a television set. Like we've been shielded and protected against gun violence and smoking and everything. And now this was just full on frontal violence from start to finish. And so it was totally unique. And I think it's also propelled by the demographics that are probably watching it. My demographic group, no one in my demographics has watched this show. My biggest disappointment was that he didn't get on the plane, because now there's probably gonna be a season 2, which I probably am not going to watch.
You will not watch it.
Unless you reconvene us, I'm probably not going to watch season 2.
Interesting. Explain that real quick.
I like things to wrap up and be done. And I wanted to get on that plane and just with his red hair and go have fun in America. So
it's similar to Hunger Games. It's just that binge culture is really strong now. And like, it give me like the last 5 minutes of an episode to be a cliffhanger, and I'm always going to press next episode. I mean, I'll watch The Circle for like 5 hours in a row, and like that's how easy it is to binge something. But like, I think that this was a very interesting game. It's almost like a game show, and it was simple and it was easy to follow, and you just really, it was a game, and you wanted to know what happened next. You wanted to see who wins. And I thought it was a very simple concept, and it really gripped your attention to go to the next episode.
And then, you can also just from a technological side, imagine, right? Like Netflix grew a lot in the last year. So many people have more subscriptions. And so there's probably a much larger Asian market on Netflix that can allow for Netflix to comfortably say, yeah, we can make a version of this show we can invest in this for the US, and it'll really go off. Because especially when you think about how Korean culture is in America is known to be a very viral thing, right? Like Gangnam Style, most popular video on YouTube, right? And this wasn't just a viral moment. This shot to the top, right? You look at K-pop all the time. BTS continually breaks records. Parasite even was historic for what it was doing. And so I think, you know, that's just the Koreans just go hard. You know what I mean? Like
these 9 episodes of the Squid Games encompass our society right now. Not just right now, not just the last 18 months, but I would say at least the last 8 years, because it goes from that childhood in the innocence and hope, and we're going to make things happen, to tension with North Korea, to the Palestinian-Israeli situation, to, I mean, literally worldwide violence, not just around the world, but in our own backyard. And I'm not blaming it on any one party. I'm not blaming it on any one person. I'm just saying that the last 8 years really were encompassed. So if I compare that to the Squid Games, it's this repulsive violence and the contrast with the innocence. And then you get to the end of the Squid Games, and I see it as hope. It's hope for his daughter. It's hope to correct the wrongs. It's hope for so much in his viewpoint. And personally, I just hope they get a better hairpiece for him on a remake, because the back of the hairline was really bothering me.
I wasn't digging the red hair either, to be completely
Yeah,
I didn't mind
no,
the red.
it looked
I
like
liked
a
it
red
long.
gotta go. The importance of Squid Game in pop culture right now is great, because they've taken what Korean television, the Korean crazy television that we've seen in the past, into mainstream culture. You know, we've had difficulty pronouncing the names of the people and naming those numbers and whatnot, because America is trying to take in this like medium for the first time in a very long time, where I actually saw a tweet and the tweet said, "Oh, Squid Games isn't the most diverse, is it?" Like, no, it's not. It's like a group of like 500 people, 500 Asian people for the first time that hit mainstream in 92 countries, #1 Netflix in all time. And like, it takes a crazy, wild concept from Korean television that is really important, but most importantly, it took in the emotion we haven't seen, the connection between the old man and Gi-Hun, you know, the friendship and the rivalry between two childhood buddies, what people would do for money, and like people get put into these dire situations, and then there's these childhood games. So yeah, I think it blindsided America, and we haven't really seen this before, which is beautiful. I'm so happy that Squid Games became such a like viral thing. I'm all for it. I'm all about the ride, and I can't wait for season 2.
All right, it's that time. Everyone has sent me their reviews anonymously, 1 to 5, and I have averaged the numbers together. The panel has rated tonight's episode as a 3.3, which puts this episode in second to last place, slightly scoring higher than the last episode, episode 8, Frontman. That concludes today's discussion on episode 9 of Squid Game. That's a wrap for the first season. To the panelists, I just want to thank you so much for an amazing conversation and debate throughout these 9 episodes. It has truly been a pleasure of mine. I've learned a lot from your insight, and I am ecstatic that I had such a fantastic group of panelists by my side during the creation of this channel. Coming next on Who Needs a Film Critic, it's Halloween time, and to celebrate, we'll be talking about the 1996 classic Scream. On the panel to discuss, we will have an entirely new group of strangers to watch the beloved horror movie for the first time, and we will get their reactions as they rate and debate Scream. If you wish to join a future panel talking about another movie or television show, email me at whoneedsafilmcritic@gmail.com, and make sure to subscribe to the podcast if you prefer to listen. That's all for now. I hope you enjoyed these discussions as much as I have. Until next time, I'm William Yelton, and this is a great group of panelists, and we are signing off.